Here comes the intro. Skip forward 30 seconds if you want to get right to the episode. This is the Tailboard Talk Podcast, the best health, wellness, and lifestyle resource for the fire service. We're using stories, lessons, and tips from the front lines to give a realistic view of what the job can do to us and how we can make it out alive. I'm Chris Morella, a firefighter since 03, medic since 05, full-time since 08, and promoted to lieutenant in 20. I'm also a personal trainer and strength coach, and I'm here to give you the best information and host the best discussions to make us capable and durable, both on the job and away from it. So grab a heater, steal some fancy creamer from First Shift, and let's go chat. Let's start with the feedback after it's been a year, or it's got to be more than a year by now, right?
Yeah, I think it's been 2 years now.
It probably is, because I think you were like one of the first 10 guests, maybe? You were pretty early.
It was one of the early ones.
Yeah. And the podcast has been around for over 2 years now. I think August is like the anniversary of it. So yeah, 2 years. The first episode we did with you was the first two episodes in a row were just you and your story, man. And so,
right.
You would send me messages though, kind of periodically or whenever. I know a couple were like when you went back and happened to see a bunch of guys you used to be in the service with, or you went to a wedding and saw a bunch of dudes there. But it seems like this episode's kind of stuck with you and the people who listen to it a little bit. So what's some of the feedback you've gotten or stuff that's happened since 2 years ago? Probably nothing.
Oh yeah,
probably nothing.
First off, I still remember how crazy it was that when the podcast aired, it was on the anniversary of whenever that wreck had happened.
Oh, that's right.
The police officer, and I was just like, that was just, I don't know, very coincidental and just eerie in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, first off, just for myself, and I know I've told you, but I didn't realize how much healing that was going to just bring me, just telling my story. Because I had kind of kept it quiet, especially since I had moved away from Oklahoma, and I never really got closure, and so it helped me a lot. But then, I got tons of feedback from guys that I was in the Marines with, and some other firefighters, but mainly my veteran buddies that were just, it inspired some of them to go get help. Some of them were kind of on a same kind of downward spiral. But especially one of my really good friends, he told me his girlfriend had been telling him to go get help for years, and he just never did. But then when he listened to my podcast, he was like, man, it, inspired him to go get help. And that was whose, wedding I was able to go to. And she said, because of listening to my story and him going to get help was, part of what, helped them get married. And
wow.
Just hearing it from all these guys, it really made me realize the fact that, I need to be more vocal about this, because, if it helps just one person, it's worth it. And that was kind of our whole reasoning for just me telling my story anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really good feedback though.
There's a lot of connections there. I didn't know that guy's wedding that you went to was the one who initially reached out, so early on. And, man, what a path then, 2 years later, so much has changed.
Oh yeah.
That's really cool. So what have you noticed with yourself then? Have you started not necessarily seeking out opportunities to talk more about it, but now it's more like a conversation instead of a thing that was in your past, Are you more aggressive towards getting it out there then?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I probably honestly should try to get it out there a little more.
I think so. Yeah.
My wife, we recently talked because Camp Hope had their 10-year anniversary. So a bunch of us all got together for that, and me and my wife were guest speakers for it.
Wow.
And so she kind of shared a little bit of her end on it, and she was really nervous about it. And she talked about how when I originally told my story on your podcast that she really didn't want me to do it. It was just, a bad time in our lives. And, she was, I don't know, it was just a bad time. So she didn't really like thinking about it.
Yeah.
But then kind of same thing where she realized it was helping all these people. And then when we shared our story at Camp Hope too, there were some guys that were residents there. And, there was a guy that was another firefighter that talked to me afterwards and how he could relate so well. And, it gives them hope. It's they can see that, because I went to Camp Hope, when was that? 2015? I think, around then. And I'm still doing well, so it's like it gives them hope, because a lot of guys leave those places and then they just kind of fall back into that hole and these bad patterns.
Mm.
And so from telling my story too, it made it easier to talk about. I used to basically, if I would start talking about my story, I would start have flashbacks and just kind of, you could see it in my eyes. Like
Yeah.
everyone would talk about it, I'd be somewhere else.
Mm.
And I'd feel all lightheaded and dizzy afterwards. And now, it's not so much like that,
Man, and I mean, you've continued your own path through. I'm not trying to expose you or anything like that, but we've talked about it. You've continued your own path through therapy to a point now where
Mm-hmm.
your therapist is like, hey, it's time for, like, you need to start getting involved in outward projections of this stuff and getting involved in more things. And we're going to talk about that because I want to talk about the other thing you're involved with. It's the say the name of the veterans group that does the workouts, because I just can't remember off the top of my head.
Project Resilience.
Yeah, I was going to say the Resiliency Project, but I knew that wasn't right.
It's funny because when I talked to Dr. Samantha Case and this other veteran, Chris, I can't think of his last name right now. Lots of Chris's out there.
Smart guys. Yeah. Probably good looking.
But
yeah.
They said it's kind of a joke with them because if you Google like Project Resilience, there's like a ton of them, and so it's like, and some people call it Resiliency Project, and it's just like it's confusing, but yeah.
So what? Yeah. So what is that? You're doing it out of your garage. I'm actually right in the middle of a garage renovation that I'm going to be kind of documenting on the old Instagram. We're taking out a window and putting a door in so I can have people come in and not go through the house and all that stuff. But
that's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll see. I got to do it, and then it's happening. We'll see how good about it. It's a good good thought. You're right, good idea, but we'll see how it plays out with the actual nuts and bolts of it. But but tell me what you're doing. Tell me what this group is, how you got involved with it, and what you're doing with that.
Well, it's kind of in the early stages, I guess. They originally wanted to start it in like 2020, I guess, but then 2020 happened.
Yeah,
and so that got kind of put to the side. So it's kind of starting back up. I found out about it through originally just listening to Power Athlete, their podcast.
Nice.
And I was kind of like, ooh, that made a side note of it in my head. Like, man, that sounds cool. I would like to get involved with that. And then not too long ago, I went to Power Athlete to do my Block 1 coach cert with them on their ranch, and which was a whole amazing experience in itself. With their coaches collective, had all kinds of great coaches there. As you know, Raph.
I was going to say, I forgot. Yeah, you met Raph, or you experienced Raph.
Yeah, I forgot, and I didn't get a chance to talk with them about you, but
they're for the better.
But I mean, just the amount of knowledge I got to learn, just not only from him, but they had all kinds of heavy hitters there. It was great. But anyways, during it, Tex did a little presentation of Project Resilience, because basically it's a network of strength coaches and gyms that are also connected with mental health professionals. So they're based out of California, and have a gym there that veterans and first responders can come in, get a workout, and then get connected to some sort of a therapy plan as well. So obviously, like from like whenever I was first on your podcast, you were looking for people that used fitness as a form of therapy for PTSD, and that's basically what Project Resilience is combining. It's so my goal of it from my end is basically starting up some group workouts about twice a week, where veterans and first responders can come in for free, lift some weights. And I'm trying to get kind of a regular group going, so that the guys that like really need it but they're still kind of nervous to get their feet wet, get their foot in the door, they'll feel more comfortable coming in. And then as you train, you start getting more comfortable. It's easier to have those harder conversations. And then if they need help further on the professional, like mental health side, I have connections with guys they can talk to. So
is that something that the project sets up, is that they give you all that support? So like, hey, you're going to get these people and they've been screened by these people, and then if they need more help, send them back here? Or what's the process for someone basically reaching out and saying, hey, I'm a vet, I'd like to get involved with this, to then get in your garage? What's the steps for that? Are you familiar with that?
Well, to get in my garage, unfortunately, they have to be kind of local. Um,
Sure.
but for, if people hear about it, that, it's kind of, there's, like a network of coaches. It's so some of them are the block one coaches through Power Athlete,
Mm.
which is kind of all over the nation. And if there's others that are involved as well, I know like Kabuki Strength is like a
Nice.
sponsor of them.
Cool.
So it's kind of all over, and it's still kind of in the beginning stages, so it's still growing.
Yeah.
And I actually had a guy that I was in with. He was one of my first platoon sergeants. He's like a mindfulness coach, and he wanted to get involved, and so now he's on like the mindfulness side of things.
Nice.
And he's based out of Texas, because that's the unfortunate part is like Dr. Sam that helped start it. She's based out of California and can only practice in California.
Oh, okay.
And so,
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so that's why like she's kind of limited there, but knowing other mental health professionals, and that's why I'm trying to get the PTSD Foundation of America involved too. I have resources in Texas. I mean, the amount of veterans in Texas is pretty insane. So so the process of it is basically, if they hear about it, they can come in, and then if they want to start training regularly, they can. But it's a good way, for me personally, like I don't know where I'd be if I hadn't already been lifting and following some sort of a strength program, because that was so much of my therapy. So I think of it as not only a treatment for PTSD, but also as like prevention.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we talked about that when you were in your inpatient, and you're basically just figuring out ways to continue to do something physical every day to kind of ward off the worst of the worst,
Yeah, I was thinking of that the other day, because at one point I think they thought I was just being crazy, and I was like running around in a wheelchair, or not running around, wheeling around in a wheelchair. And then one of the nurses came up to me and she was like, "Are you trying to like work out with that?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, okay.
Cool. We thought you were manic." Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It's like, I gotta do something.
Yeah.
But, and I would, I'd feel much better. And I've, like, there's a lot of good books out there now, that I've read, like, Move the Body, Heal the Mind, The Body Keeps the Score. Yeah, that's a really good one. And, I've read about how much, the physical and mental, it's all connected.
Right.
So,
right.
You take care of your body, it'll help take care of your mind, and vice versa. So it's really just a perfect way to treat veterans or first responders, and again, or prevent PTSD, as opposed to just throwing a giant Ziploc bag of pills at them.
I remember that. Yeah, man, you're bringing back all kinds of good and bad memories. I guess I shouldn't say good memories, but all kinds of memories. So you're doing it 2 times a week? Is that the average, or is it up to the kind of the facility what they want to do?
Yeah, it's kind of up to the facility. I'm doing it actually just 2 times a month for now.
Yeah, obviously.
If it grows from there, then awesome. But we just did our second one this past, what day was that? My days are all messed up.
Yeah.
I don't know, last week sometime.
Yeah.
And it was good. We had a good mix of like some veterans and firefighters and police. And so I think, creating that group and creating that environment makes guys just to where, like, as you go through these workouts, I mean, my best friends I made through training partners, and it gets you to where you're a little bit more comfortable with having, those conversations where it's, hey man, I've actually been kind of struggling lately, or, maybe they have a call that bothered them, or maybe it's just something at home. There's all kinds of issues going on. It makes guys a little bit more comfortable to talk about it.
Well, I mean, even if they don't get to the exact root of the issue, you go to work, and for the most part, we all have a lot of the same problems. In that kitchen table, we get to sit around and realize that we all have the same problems. So just being in a group, and even if you never get to like the real deep stuff, you just know that there's other people like you out there, and you're all there for a reason. So that something's going on, and I think that camaraderie, like you said, is enough a lot of times just to make people feel better. And then
that's so much of like just the firefighter peer support side of things is just like what you said, the kitchen table. Your crew. If you have a good crew that you work with, like, you should be able to there's your peer support right there.
Right.
The kitchen table.
I mean, or
Talk
the
to each
tailboard,
other.
either one. I mean, I should remember the name of the
Yeah,
show sometimes when I'm
yes,
talking about this
tailboard.
stuff. Great business, man. All right. So with that then, because that dovetails perfectly into what we've been working on, what you've been working on, what Annette and I threw at you kind of last month, which was Devote December, because we just got to a point where, like, I think it's just a natural progression where we saw how excited you and some other people were, and we just couldn't match that level of enthusiasm this year,
Right.
just because of whatever reason is going on or what other stuff is taking our attention away from it. But it's we still believe in it. It's such a hugely valuable program that we wanted to continue it, but we knew that going into it half-hearted was not the way to do it. So
Right.
reached out to you and basically said, thanks for accepting the position of running Devote December. And you said, yeah, I guess I can do that, thankfully. And it's all yours, man. But you've been doing a ton of work on it, and I'm really excited for you to kind of take it over. So let's just go a little bit back, just a tiny bit back. And you've done Devote December since it started, I think, just the few years we've been doing it.
I think so. I think I didn't even realize it was the start of it. I was just like, oh, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that was another problem, is we were so infrequent throughout the year with it that you wouldn't know if it was the first year or 20th year, which is a good and a bad thing, I guess. But last year you did mindfulness every day or meditation every day for your Devote December, right? Just give me a little.
I think you guys made it to, wasn't it like 15 minutes of something that you chose?
Yeah. So the first year we did it, we used the number, and we checked it daily, and it was just use that number. So I think it started like 115, and then we got up to like 132 over the course of December, and that was the number of confirmed and verified firefighter and EMS suicides. So we were using the firefighter.
Which I feel like you should note that that's only like probably a quarter of the real number.
Oh yeah. So this that's what I'm going into, is that was from the Firefighter Behavioral Health Alliance, and we used that number because the guy who was running it would receive a report of a suicide, and then he would not investigate it, but he would go out and then like send the family or whoever it was a questionnaire, confirm that it was suicide, confirm that they were a firefighter or a paramedic, and basically verify it, instead of just watching the news and saying like, oh, they're just adding up a number. So with that, though, like you're saying, that reporting number is, a third to a quarter of what the actual number was. But that was the most reliable number, reliable number we could use. So we used that one. So we started like 115, and it was just 115 of anything. And the goal was, if you just do 115 anything, let's say squats, right? You're going to get a little mental boost from that. You'll raise all the good chemicals, and you'll be a little sore, and you'll get your heart rate up a little bit, and you'll be breathing a little bit heavy, and you'll feel good. And then the goal was, maybe later on in the spring, when statistically, like, the general population suicide rates are higher, maybe you'll be like, man, I'm not feeling that great, but I do remember back in December, I did these things a few days, and I felt better after that. Maybe I'll start doing that stuff again. And like you're saying, maybe that's a good way to treat and or prevent a catastrophe from happening, right? So that was the original intent of it. And then the second year, I think we did 15 minutes, and then we put out really short workouts or left it up to you, just like the number we used the first year. Now we're just doing a time frame. So just do 15 minutes of whatever you want. And we got good traction off of that because, if you take someone who is relatively inactive and you tell them to do 115 to 130 squats, that's not likely to happen. But if you say, hey, here's a 15-minute, very brief and very entry-level workout, and most of it's walking or carrying something, or sets of push-ups in 5 to 8 and squats in 8 to 10, it's more doable. And so we changed it to a time frame instead of a checklist. So, but what I want to get back to was, you did meditation every day, and so you have your regular strongman and firefighting and conjugate routine you do, and then you added Devote December on top of that, which was meditation. So why don't you give me a little bit of info on how that worked and how you liked it, and what kind of you noticed doing meditation every single day for all of December?
Yeah. Well, first off, a lot of people kind of mistake meditation, or really just mindfulness too, for, you having to like go in a deep dark room, lights, candles, and be all hippy dippy with it and stuff. And it doesn't have to be that at all. There's all kinds of forms of meditation. I chose to do some silent meditation because I'd kind of fallen out of the habit of silent meditation. So I was like, hey, this is a good way to get back in the habit. of it. So, and basically, it's all about grounding and just being in the present moment. Some people think, you're not supposed to think about anything when you meditate, and that's impossible. You can't not
Right.
think about something.
Yeah. Think
So it's
about
all
not
about
thinking.
awareness, and usually, you bring the focus to the breath. So I do usually like some nasal breathing. There's box breathing you can do where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold that for 4 seconds. Or you can just, count your breath. And, distraction thoughts or the distractions and thoughts are going to come into your head, and you learn to just kind of be aware of them. And then for me personally, I think of them as like a passing cloud, and then back on my breath. So with those 15 minutes each day, I mean, I started sleeping better. I was able to handle my emotions better. I honestly think my recovery got better, as far as like with my training as well.
Hmm.
Because I did some research and there's some science behind that too. But also, especially for firefighters, I discovered, our nervous system is almost always in like hyperdrive.
Yeah.
Um, the lights and tones go off, bam, that's that nervous system fight or flight response. And you don't even have to be running calling. A lot of guys don't even realize it when you've been doing this job for a while. They think, oh, it's just another call kind of thing, but you still get that adrenaline dump.
Mm-hmm.
Like, your body is it just does it automatically. You can't help it. And so then even when you come home, I don't know if you've ever had this, but like not too long ago, I was like riding a little workout in my garage, and it was dark, and my wife accidentally turned the light on, and my brain just went lights.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's that nervous system response. So firefighters are really at risk for just a nervous system burnout, and that leads to all kinds of health problems, both physically and mentally. So when you do that 15 minutes of silent meditation, it puts your body in that rest and relax mode. So it helps reset your nervous system, gets
Mm-hmm.
it to calm down. And so, I mean, again, just when you take that pause in the day, like there's an old Zen saying where if you don't think you have 5 minutes to meditate, then meditate for 20 minutes. Um,
Yeah, that's nice.
I like to do one that's similar to that. That's just like, if you don't think you have time to meditate, just think about it for a minute.
Nice.
And,
Yeah,
so
I like it, man. I've definitely had those. I mean, Nathan's 3.5 and Sawyer's a year and a half, and so it'd be odd for us to go 2.5 minutes without something being thrown or a loud
Right.
noise happening or a scream, like a blood curdling
Yes.
scream for seemingly no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes Katie and I'll just look at each other and be like, we are on such sensory overload right now. Like just yesterday, Sawyer's got some teeth coming in, and Nathan was up a couple times throughout the night. So both of them that day were very restless, and she woke up just screaming like crazy from a nap, like an hour earlier than she was supposed to. And Nathan, did something and just burst into a screaming fit. And the both of them in stereo screaming was just like too much. And you're just like, I
Yeah.
can't even function right now. Everything, and I think that the response is different for everybody, right? Like for some people, they'll
Right.
shut down and withdraw. Some people will dig into it and like try to fix it immediately. For me, it just drives me to frustration a lot. Like it's annoyance, and I just want the
Mm-hmm.
noise to stop. So I actually end up getting like worked up about it. And I had to like turn the monitor off so I didn't hear Sawyer screaming anymore, which sounds bad, but I had to turn it off and then go inside because Nathan was out in the yard with Katie. And I just had to like give myself 10 seconds and be like, okay, I can deal with one of them screaming. So I'm going to go get her.
Right.
And I can deal that. And then when I come back down, hopefully Nathan's done screaming. So then we'll solve this problem. But yeah,
It doesn't sound bad to me at all, because Gabe is 8 and Zoe is 3.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes they just are going at it,
Oh.
and it's like, oh my God, there's too much noise,
Yeah.
and it's sensory overload. And
yeah, it happens, man. So, but you're saying, it's that overdrive, it's that amygdala just firing like mad,
mm-hmm.
and you don't make that distinction between like, okay, I'm home now. Your brain is just like, oh, there's more stuff going on. I better keep freaking out about it.
Mm-hmm.
you made me kind of think of it when you were saying that even if you've been around for a long time and you think it's just another call. A long time ago, Joe Galley, who was just on here,
Mm-hmm.
and his boss,
listen to that one.
yeah, awesome dude, and his boss, who was another extremely forward-thinking guy, they read a study or read a paper that said that the health outcomes and the now I'm going to butcher it. Basically, it said that the people who didn't go on a call had worse health than the people who did go on a call because of that stress response,
Right.
and because they were in bed and the lights would go on and the alarm would go off, and then they would just lay there and let that battery acid just flow through their body.
Yeah, you don't get to like.
There's no expression with it. Yeah, you don't get to use it, and so it's just burning through you. And so what they did was they every time the ambulance would get a call overnight, they would get up and walk like 3 to 4 laps around the bay floor, or they get up and go empty the dishwasher, or get up and go put the towels from the washer in the dryer. Like they had to get up and do something, and they kept each other accountable on it to the point where like if Joe got up and walked by, he would knock on Dan's door and be like, "Hey, come on, get up. Like we got to go move around a little bit." And that was all in an effort to combat that. Like they know it's happening. It's not up to you. It's if you could consciously decide not to have that happen, you would obviously, but you can't.
Right.
And they still are very proactive about that. And I think a few guys still do that where they'll make themselves get up and walk around. I know whenever I'm at a station and the phones go off and I don't have to go, I either sit up and I do like a 10 to 15 really deep breaths, or actually stand up and just kind of rock side to side, or just kind of pick my feet up, kind of not march in place, but just kind of move around a little bit and try to breathe really deeply, just hoping that I'm kind of getting that stuff moving, So I don't know. It sounds like witchcraft, right? It sounds kind of goofy, but
not to me.
I think after if you look at it if you're going to be there for 25 to 30 years, it's worth a shot. I don't know,
Yeah, I'll have to if you can find like research on that or something.
I will. I'm going to go back. I haven't thought about that in a long time. I'll text Joe right now actually when we're done and try.
I know there's some guys would totally be on board with me doing that, but I know there are definitely some that would get just even more pissed off if I went and knocked on their door like, "Hey, walk around." Like,
well, those guys probably never woke up in the first place for the call. They're probably the kind that get up in the morning.
I don't know how. Like, I'm sure you guys have them too, where guys like that sleep through calls.
Oh yeah,
and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know if it's because of my Marine background, but it's like I always have a hard time sleeping anyways.
Yeah,
but that's especially I think part of it. And I'll have to try that because this last shift, I mean, I didn't end up having to go on any of the calls, but there was a lot of radio traffic and tones going off for them. And yeah, it's just like people don't get that side of the job sometimes if you don't work it, because they think like, oh, you didn't have to run any calls, so you slept. And it's like, no.
Right. Yeah.
And even then, even if you do sleep, I like James Gearing's book, The One More Light. I think he uses an analogy where it's basically like someone sitting in the corner of your room with like some symbols, and he's like, I may bang on these, I may not, I don't know. So it's like even when you're sleeping, you're still you're not getting that deep sleep. So
I've told Annette, because when we're doing Spring for Change stuff and talking about sleep, it's very, very seldom when I'm at home, and probably just because I'm overtired from being at work, I don't remember my dreams necessarily, and I don't really get up in the middle of the night. I'm pretty much done,
Right.
To where Katie's like, yeah, Nathan came in the room twice last night. I'm like, well, that's surprising because I didn't know he was even in here.
Yeah.
And or like this morning, he was in bed with us when we woke up. We're like, what time did you get here? Because we're just so tired that we don't even wake up for it. But at work, it'll be regularly that I'll wake up and see like the pile of clothes in the corner that is a person or something like that. Right. Or I'm looking for something, and then I wake up and I'm like sitting up in bed and I'm like, what is going on right here? And yeah, that happens regularly at work, but never at home. So there's something, you're definitely less settled.
Yeah, just like even there's like a tiny little, I need to get like some electrical tape or something. There's a small TV on the wall in our rooms at my station, and there's one of those tiny little green LED lights.
Yeah.
And that will just sometimes like my eyes will flutter or something.
Yeah.
And I'll think that tiny little light is the lights, and I jump up and I'm like, oh, dang. Yeah.
Gross. Yeah. Well, I was going to say too, we have a few guys that it's a joke on the opposite side of that, the guys that don't wake up for calls, and their regular routine is to get up, walk out, grab a cup of coffee, and the ambulance crew will be sitting there just who ran all night and just looks terrible, and they're just ready to be poured into their car and go home, and without fail, he'll be like, man, pretty good night, huh? And we're like, what are you talking about? We went out 4 times. He's like, you did? Like, it was just a regular occurrence. Like, he's just so...
That sounds like my driver.
Oh, my God. Wow, it was great. No calls all night. We're like, for who? Like, what?
Yeah.
We went out 4 times. Like, oh, I didn't hear him. Like, geez, dude.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know how some guys do it, but
God.
Good for them, though, because it's I wish I could.
I guess. So let's get into... So we handed you Devote December. You were more than accepting of it. And you started developing a plan for it. What's your plan looking like now? Because we got a month and a half or so till we're kicking off.
Yeah, I'll be here before we know it, I guess. But yeah, so this time I kind of had this thought because I kind of wanted to combine what I did with the 15 minutes of meditation. But basically, it's going to have a daily 5-5-5 challenge where you do 5 minutes of mindfulness, 5 minutes of mobility work, and 5 minutes of walking.
Nice.
I think it's like a simple but effective way that you can improve your overall health, and also start to create good habits. And you do that daily. And then it also kind of goes along with the theme of like 5-5-5, which is like the tolling of the bell or the last alarm or last call. But I thought it kind of, went along with, just because we're trying to prevent firefighter suicides and bring some awareness to that. So you do that daily, and then throughout the month, I'm also going to be just kind of rotating through the 4 pillars of health and wellness, which is the mindfulness, fitness, sleep, and nutrition. And it'll just be some like simple tips on each subject. For nutrition, maybe it'll be a few recipes. Fitness, maybe, I'll throw out a short little workout, or maybe just some tips on workouts. Mindfulness, same thing, just because, again, like how I was talking about it earlier with meditation, there's just so many misconceptions when it comes to mindfulness training. It can even be something as simple as like listening to music. What puts you in that present moment where you're, just really aware right now. And that's something that I think is really going to be beneficial, because a lot of people don't understand meditation that well. They go on walks and then they get back like, man, that felt really good. And they don't realize a lot of it. Yeah, there's other stuff going on, but a lot of it it's that meditation side where you're just walking and you're thinking about that moment right there, and you're living in the present. And to me, that's always really important, especially with having kids, because, it happens to everyone where like, I'll be somewhere else while I'm sitting here playing with my kids and not thinking about it at all, when I should be in that moment playing with my kids, enjoying my time with them.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of guys start having problems too, is, if they're stuck on a bad call or something and that's constantly running through their head, they're not able to enjoy those things and they just become numb. So that's basically the goal of it, and people can, as they do the 5-5-5 challenge, tag Devote December and repost, and helps kind of spread awareness for what it is, so.
Yeah, I'll definitely be doing it. I think the 5-5-5 is great, because all of those things are just short enough where you probably want to naturally do more of them. Like 5 minutes of mobility is 1.5 or things, maybe. Yeah. Maybe 2 things. And at that point, you're like, well, can I just do a few more?
Yeah, it's like, I feel pretty good. I'll keep stretching a little bit,
Can you give me like 1 more to do? Because 2 wasn't enough. Right. And then 5 minutes of walking. I mean, that's a perfect. It makes me think of that whole like floss 1 tooth a day thing, where you're just doing just enough to make yourself want more, to do more the next day, or know that you can do that much so you can have the confidence to do more the next time. Right. I think it's great, man. I'm pumped for it. I think I'll be doing it. Like I said, Katie and I have recommitted to our fitness and wellness about 30 times in the past year, just because we'll do good for a week or so. And then it just seems like, man, the days just aren't long enough, or we just get to a point where we're both okay with just not working out, or just not going for a walk, because we're like, the stillness and just sitting down and not paying attention to whatever show's on is better than, feels like it's definitely an easier choice. It feels better than trying to go do something else. Like the mental effort and the physical effort of like doing something else at that point, it's just like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
And we definitely take the easy way out a number of times, but in the moment it feels good. But then after like a week of that, we're like, crap, we gotta get back on this.
That's where it's handy. Do you guys have a dog?
No, and it was one of those sad things. We lost both our dogs probably right when I'll get to the second part of it. Both our dogs were projects, man. They were amazing.
Yeah.
But one was 13 and the other one was 10 or 11 when she died. They both had significant health issues. And so the last year and a half of both of them was just brutal. It was like carry them upstairs, carry them downstairs, make them go outside, make them, it was constant. And so the one died before we had Nathan, and the second one died when Nathan was like 10 weeks old. And it was one of those things where we put her down. It was very sad. And then we went out to lunch, and then we're like, now what? Like, we just stay out? Like, we don't, like, what do we have to do? We don't have to rush back for a dog that's going to have a seizure or go to the bathroom on the floor. And so we stayed out, and it was like, Nathan was napping a lot. He was 10 months old. And so at that moment we were like, we really miss them and we love them so much, but this is so much easier.
Right.
And still, maybe once a year we'll see a cute dog and be like, oh, that's a cute dog. And then immediately we're both like, nope, no, thank you.
Well, especially once if they get to that age and they have all those problems, it makes it difficult. But so we have a dog, and he will basically go psycho if he does not get his walk in, and he'll fall. Like, we used to keep his leash in our laundry room, and then we stopped doing that because anytime we walked into the laundry room, which was pretty constant with 2 kids, and it's also the access to our garage, he would think he's going on a walk and he'd follow us around, and it was like, but that's one of the things where sometimes I really won't feel like walking, but he's like, hey, like, it's walk time, and he's like nosing me and everything. It's like, all right, come on, let's go take Martian on a walk. And and all the kids come, and sometimes it's kind of like I like to teach my kids how to cook too, and sometimes it's more of a hassle, but that they're learning out of it and getting something good out of it too. Because some of our walks, it's like, oh, a nice peaceful walk with the family, but Zoe trips and falls and starts crying. Gabe's running all over the place or something, or steps in an anthill, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like, why can't we just walk? Like,
we've gone 30 feet, guys. Can we
it takes a lot longer, but at the same time, I always try to remind myself, even sometimes it's more stressful, sometimes it's nice, sometimes everyone actually just walks and it's great, and it's like, wow, we just actually walked on our walk instead of making it a more stressful thing. But it's a good habit to get into, and like you're saying, all of these, the 5-5-5, it's short enough to where it's doable. And it's actually something that I basically do at my lunchtime at work. I go back to my room and I do a quick little meditation for at least 5 minutes. Sometimes I do 15. It just kind of depends. Sometimes it gets interrupted too, but and then I try to at least do 5 minutes of mobility, and I usually do 10 minutes of walking after I eat. But
good for you, because I don't. Have you ever been walking your dog and getting annoyed by them because they're taking too long or stopping so frequently, and you just want to get going or get around the block or whatever your path is, and then you realize that you're on the walk for them, not you? And you're like, oh, exactly. I guess if he wants to sniff, that's kind of the reason I brought him outside, so I should probably let him sniff.
That's a good idea. Like, so not so much about my dog. He walks pretty well with that, but with my kids, when he said that, because they'll stop, and it's like, hey, come on. Like, like, they're basically, I almost feel like I'm on a patrol with my family, because we have dispersion, and it's like, all right, come on, let's, one of them stops, one of them sprints ahead, and
you're like, oh wait, this isn't for me, this is for you guys. I should probably
so
let you do what you're doing.
Change my perspective on it, I guess. So
I do have to applaud you though, because you are setting an example for Katie and I with how much you have your kids in the garage gym.
Thank you.
And the cooking thing too. I mean, that's cool to see. Even though, listen, I'm on board with your organ meats, man. I don't know what everybody else is big problem with them. I'm down.
Oh, they're so good. Like, have you had? Well, obviously not all of them.
I've had very few. Yeah.
But it's just, you just have to. It's like anything else. Like, I know people that like can mess up chicken breast horribly to where it's like,
Absolutely.
It's super dry, and doesn't taste
Well, the
good.
thing about organ, you can't compare them. I think the problem a lot of people get in with a lot of food is they try to compare it to something else, like basically vegan food or keto food or substitutes. They try to compare it to the real thing.
Right.
It's not. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
So don't compare it to the original thing. And if you're gonna eat tongue and be like, oh, this doesn't taste like salmon.
Right.
This is the worst salmon ever.
Yeah.
Like, of course it is. It's tongue. It tastes like pot roast. So, they're their own thing. You just gotta have that in your mind from the get go, and then you can be like, this is the best version of this liver I've ever had.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Liver isn't going to taste like chicken thighs. It's going to taste like liver. But the problem with liver, usually people overcook it. But
well, that's the old isn't that the old staple from way back when it was like liver and onions, and you just picture this like shoe leather piece of
it turns into like rubber. But
yeah,
I actually and now it's funny because it's kind of turned into like a little rookie tradition that me and my driver and other guys will do, like we get some raw liver and have him try it with like some salt and honey, because it's his favorite way to eat it. He's like, I prefer just eating it raw like that, because there's a lot of people they're like, well, why do you eat it? And it's like, because it's like incredibly nutrient dense. Like you eat just a little bit of it once a week, like you're good. Like it's nature's multivitamin, and your body will actually absorb it better. So
does anything happen to it does that diminish when you cook it?
Yeah. So it's actually, you'll get the most nutrients raw.
Okay.
And actually what some people do, I've heard John Wellborn say what he does is like he'll chop it up into little cubes and freeze it, and then he takes it like a little pill. So it's like, that's what, like, my wife, she hates liver, so that's more like for her. She's like, I'll just take it in like a little vitamin form kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an easy and it's cheap too. So you just get some liver, freeze
nobody
it.
wants it. Yeah. But the gym side of it is what kind of where we started this thing. I love the fact that Gabe has his own log, and Zoe's got her stuff, she just wants to take your stuff anyway.
Oh yeah.
She wants to lift your wagon wheels and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I gotta
at her neck.
If I get my sled out, she wants a sled ride pretty much.
Yeah, dude. And I just love that because they're, like you said, yours are a little bit older. But it gives me hope, because I really like working out now with Nathan, but it's dicey.
Yeah.
It's like he's got about 10 minutes of attention in him. He can be in the same room with me as I work out, but he's going to be doing something else that I got to pay attention to.
Right.
But
they've basically, both of them have like grown up in a gym, because when Gabe was really little, that was when I started coaching at CrossFit West Houston. And he would come there on the regular, and then when I moved, I was like, well, I gotta have a gym, so that's when we started our garage gym, and so he's just grown up with it. So it's funny, we visited CrossFit West Houston, my buddy Rob that works there, and he was like, asked me like, Dad, I've only been to Mr. Rob's garage, where's his house? And because he was thinking his gym is his garage, so in his mind, it's just everyone has like these amazing garage gyms. Basically, it's like, what? Why are there cars in that person's gym? Like,
yeah, what are you doing, man? If he comes up north where it snows, it's going to be a rude awakening.
So, it is really cool that, I mean, and like Gabe will ask me questions about like macronutrients and creatine, and and Zoe's, I mean, pretty much the same way. She tries to. I hope that she will stick with it and maybe start with like Olympic weightlifting, because that's what Lori is really into, and like she already like will do like a split jerk and stuff, and that's great. It's cool to see. Like,
awesome, man. All right, well, let's do this. Tell everybody. So you're running the Devote December page now. So just get all the contact information out there. Get yours out there. Get the Resiliency Project out there, or Project.
Project Resilience.
Project Resilience. So get Devote December, Project Resilience, your personal page. Get it all out there so people know where to look this stuff up.
Okay. Well, you can look me up on my Instagram, which is Spaid SC. So Spaid, like my last name, SPAID SC, as in strength and conditioning. That's my Instagram page. Devote December is at Devote December. Pretty simple one there. And then Project Resilience Instagram is CSRT Project Resilience, and you can look them up there. Get involved if you're someone. That's what's awesome. If you're someone that is in the mental health spectrum, or if you're a strength coach and you're like, this sounds great, I want to get involved somehow, reach out, and you can possibly help out, because like I said, what it is it's basically just this network of coaches and mental health professionals that are helping each other out.
Dude, thank you so much for your support, for sharing your story, for everything, man. You've been with this thing since the beginning, and I appreciate it hugely, because you're taking over. I mean, you are hitting stride here and involved in a lot of stuff and doing a lot of stuff, and it's awesome to see. And I'm pumped, man. So thank you, and I'm genuinely excited for Devote December. I'm so glad that you were willing to take it, and we turned it over to you, because I would not have this much excitement if I was running it with Annette. We just didn't have it this year.
I'm excited to see it grow.
Yeah, it will. I think you're going to push it far and wide, man, and we're pumped. So thank you for that. And
I hope so.
Yeah, man. Thanks. We'll be talking soon.
Yeah. Thank you.